priorities in the enumerated powers of our Constitution. We should be setting our priorities on our military. But when you said this war is lost and said that General Petraeus was dishonest, that emboldened our enemies, demoralized our troops, and endangered them, and you need to apologize to them, Senator.
I've been endorsed by the largest military organization in the country, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. My opponent, listen to this idea. She wants to privatize the Veterans Administration. Think about that. Privatize the Veterans Administration. I worked hard. We have a Veterans Hospital out here that's being constructed. It'll be the finest in the whole world. It's a prototype for the other VA hospitals. We haven't had a new one in 15 years, and it is a beauty. And I'm glad I worked on that. I'm glad I worked on the Wounded Warrior legislation. I'm glad I helped pass the GI Bill of Rights. I appreciate the work of our military and will continue to work with them the rest of my political career.
Thank you. Mrs. Engel, you have the next question. On Saturday, you were at a political rally and referred to, quote, favor buying pork politicians, referring to Senator Reid. People want to know if you engaged in favor buying when you promised political juice to Tea Party candidate Scott Ashton if he should drop out of the race.
Not at all. What I offered was the access to government that all people want when they have a representative in the U.S. Senate. They want to know that when they come to Washington, D.C., they will be heard. They want to know that when they request a town hall meeting, that they will be heard. I'd like to go back, though, to the Veterans Administration. My father is a veteran of World War II and the Korean War. He has an injury related to that. He's 88 years old. He has Social Security, Medicare, and the VA, and yet he pays $800 a month in prescription drugs. What I said was we could do better. We need to do better for our military, our veterans, and their families. That should be our top priority.
Senator Reid.
I would suggest her dad come to one of my offices with some casework on that, because that's certainly he shouldn't be doing that. I want to comment, the political juice, that's her question, but let me just say this. My friend has berated all night health care, health insurance reform. I have health insurance, like 6 million other federal employees. I want others to have that same health insurance that I have, and that's one of the reasons we work so hard to get health insurance reform passed. My opponent, her husband, Ted, worked for the BLM for 37 years. They have a pension from the federal government. They live on that pension. They have health care just like I have from the federal government. I want to help others who don't have what I have. 50 million Americans have the same insurance I have. And that's where setting up the exchanges, so in 3.5 years they will have that.
Thank you. Mrs. Engel, 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, certainly Obamacare is nothing like the insurance policy that my husband and I have. Every year there's a window and we get to make a choice. Obamacare offers no choices, so it's not at all like what Senator Reid has. And what we really do need is something like what Senator Reid has, which is that we should all have the choices that we can pick our own insurance companies and insurance policies rather than having the government dictate and mandate the coverages that we buy.
Okay. The next question is on the Bush tax cuts. It goes to you, Senator Reid.
Okay.
The Bush-era tax cuts are set to expire at year's end. Without congressional action, the taxes Americans pay on income, dividends, and capital gains will rise, returning to late 1990s level. Why do you want to raise taxes, even on the wealthy, in the midst of a recession?
Mitch McConnell, who's my Republican counterpart, we don't agree on everything, but we agree on one thing, that we have to wait until we get back after the election to find out what the economy is going to be. I guarantee everyone that there will be no increase for middle-class people in America, no tax increase for middle-class America. We have to see what we are told by the experts, what we should do with the people who make more than that. I personally am not in favor of giving billionaire tax cuts right now. We'll have to see anyone less than billionaires, and we'll do that when we get back. I also want to say this. My time's not up. My friend keeps talking about the fact that exchanges, we have them. Every year we have exchanges, just like people who will have it under the health care insurance that we passed. They will get choices, just like we have. I repeat, I want everyone to have the same choices that I have. She doesn't want to have give people the same choice she has. That is exchanges she has every year. She can pick and choose. So can I. I want 50 million other people to be able to do that also.
Mrs. Engel.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. The Bush-era tax cuts are set to expire at year's end. Without congressional action, the taxes Americans pay on income, dividends, and capital gains will rise. I asked Senator Reid why he wanted to raise taxes, even on the wealthy, in the midst of a recession.
Well, the tax cuts need to be made permanent. If they're not, we will experience the largest tax increase in the history of America. And with voting for over 300 tax increases, Senator, we can't trust you with our taxes. Not only that, you came from Searchlight to the Senate with very little. Now you're one of the richest men in the U.S. Senate. On behalf of Nevada taxpayers, I'd like to know, we'd like to know, how did you become so wealthy on a government payroll?
Senator Reid.
Mitch, that's really a kind of a low blow. I think most everyone knows I was a very successful lawyer. I did a very good job in investing. I have been on a fixed income since I went to Washington. I've lived off of what I made in the private sector. I put my 5 kids through 100 semesters of school, and I paid for every penny of it. So her suggestion that I made money being a senator is simply false, and I'm really disappointed that she would suggest that. And I will further say, if she wants the tax cuts made permanent for everybody, we have a deficit problem to worry about also. $4 trillion it would cost to have these taxes extended in the future. That's quite a load, $4 trillion.
Okay, let's continue along those lines. We're talking about the Bush tax cuts, and this question is for you, Mr. Engel. It would indeed cost the federal government $4 trillion over the next decade and almost double the deficit. Are you concerned that these tax cuts place an unfair burden of debt on our children and our grandchildren?
First of all, let's really talk about whose money that is. It's not the federal government's money, it's our money. And when he says we're squandering the federal government's money, it's really squandering our money. Those tax cuts will create that confidence that businesses need to go forward and provide those jobs. Right now, as I said before, they're holding back because they can only see a climate of taxation and regulation. We need to give them that confidence by making those tax cuts permanent. If we do, then a business like the one in Reno, where the senior partner is 82, if he should die and these tax cuts aren't made permanent, 55% of their business will go away and 33 employees will lose their jobs. We need to make these tax cuts permanent for us.
Okay, Senator Reid, I'll give you a minute.
We reduced the load of debt on the American people during the Clinton years. We had a pay-go system. If you want a new program, pay for it or raise the revenue. As a result of that, we have the most successful economic splurge in the history of this country. We created 22 million jobs and reduced the debt by going on $1 trillion, as I said earlier. We can do this. Now, when my friend, and I say that seriously, President Bush came into office, he had the $7 trillion surplus. That was squandered with 2 wars, taxes unpaid for, and now we have, instead of a $7 trillion surplus, $11 trillion debt. We have to meet the demands of this country and pay down that debt. We're trying to dig out of the hole we're in now. We need to do that. We need to reestablish the pay-go rules, and we've done that. That's now the law of the land. We did that together.
Thank you. We're going to go to closing statements right now. We're running a little short on time. Senator Reid, you're up, and you'll have about 45 seconds, 50 seconds.
Okay, got to find my little notes here.
To deliver your closing statement.
Okay, a lot of paper here. I have a few notes I made. Thank you very much, Mitch, for what you've done here. First of all, I think we found tonight that my opponent favors big banks. She's against Wall Street reform. Oil companies, she said BP had too much regulation. That's what happened, went wrong there. Insurance companies, it's obvious from discussion on health care how much she cares for insurance companies. I have a different philosophy. I am for the middle class. Everything we talk about here tonight is, as far as I'm concerned, jobs. The only way to solve the job problem is to create more jobs. Renewable energy jobs, she mocks them. She said they're designer jobs. I'm a fighter. I will continue to fight what I believe is best for the American people. We have a long ways to go, but we've made some progress, and I'll continue to do everything I can for the people of Nevada.
Thank you, Senator Reid. And Mrs. Engel.
Well, people often ask me why I smile so much. It's because I'm an optimist. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in American exceptionalism. I believe that with God's help, we the people have the solutions to our economic problems, and they're as simple as cut back on the spending, pay back on the debt, and take back our economy by repealing policies like Obamacare. We have the right contract with America. That's our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. We have the right message for America: lower taxes, less government regulation, more individual freedom, and stop the spending. And we have the right angle for the U.S. Senate. I'm Sharron Angle, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you very much. We've come to the conclusion of tonight's debate. Once again, thank you to Senator Reid and Mrs. Angle. Thank you to Nevada's broadcasters. Thank you for being part of this event. And don't forget to vote. Early voting begins this Saturday, and Election Day is November 2nd.
That was the only scheduled debate between Harry Reid and Sharron Angle. It was live from Las Vegas. Here are a couple of the ads that the candidates are airing throughout Nevada.
I'm Sharron Angle, and I approve this message.
You're looking at every time Harry Reid voted to raise taxes. Income taxes, taxes on Social Security, taxes on small businesses, even the dreaded death tax. A staggering 300 times Reid voted to raise taxes, and it's a big reason for Nevada's economic meltdown. Now Reid and Pelosi are planning to raise taxes on 34 million families right after the election. Let's stop Harry Reid from ever raising our taxes again.
I work with kids who've been abused, and their stories break my heart. But when the Assembly created a program to weed out sex offenders by helping youth and church groups do background checks on volunteers, it passed, with only 2 members voting no. Sharron Angle was one of them. She said background checks were an invasion of privacy. Sharron Angle voted to protect the privacy of sex offenders instead of the safety of our kids.
Sharron Angle. Ideas so extreme, they're dangerous.
I'm Harry Reid, and I approve this message.